Everyone in the courtroom expected a routine hearing. The walls echoed with the usual creak of benches and the quiet shuffle of paperwork. No one, not even the bailiff who'd seen it all, could have guessed that the next 30 minutes would leave everyone, including the judge, completely stunned. Marcus Taylor sat at the defendant's table with his hands resting flat on the cold wooden surface. He wasn't there for a crime. Not this time. He was there fighting for custody of his little sister, Lila, a 9-year-old girl who had been bounced between foster homes since their mother passed away. Across the aisle sat a state-appointed caseworker and a foster guardian, a woman who barely knew Lila's favorite color, let alone the nightmares that woke her up screaming most nights. Marcus, barely 25, didn't look like the kind of guy most people trusted with a child. Tattoos, calloused hands, and a working-class resume didn't exactly impress family court judges. But Marcus had something no one else in that courtroom had: unwavering love. He had raised Lila since she was 3, through hospital visits, homework tantrums, and birthday parties they couldn't afford. When CPS took her away after a misunderstanding, he had left her home alone for 20 minutes when his boss refused to let him leave work early. His entire world collapsed. Today was his last chance to bring her home. As Judge Rowan reviewed the case file, Marcus tried to control his breathing. Every time the gavel tapped, he jumped. He wasn't scared of the law. He was scared of losing his only family. That's when she walked in. Danielle. Tall, confident, dressed in professional simplicity, a sharp grey suit, no jewelry, and an expression as calm as a mountain before a storm. She didn't glance at the judge, the caseworker, or the guardian. She walked straight to the back of the room where Lila sat, small and nervous in her too-big dress. Lila lit up the moment she saw Danielle. She stood up and waved. Danielle smiled gently and held a finger to her lips. Quiet. Respect. But her eyes never left Lila's face. That one smile changed the entire temperature of the room. Judge Rowan paused. "Sir, I see here you've requested permission to present a character witness." "Yes, Your Honor," Marcus said, his voice steady but tight. "She's here." The judge nodded. "Proceed." Danielle stood. "My name is Danielle Harper," she began, "and I'm a licensed family therapist who has worked with Marcus Taylor and his sister for the past 7 years. I am also—" She turned toward Marcus, and for the first time in her career her voice cracked. "His fiancé." The courtroom went still. No one had expected that, especially not Marcus. He turned to her, confused. Danielle continued, "I didn't come here today to testify for Marcus as a client. I came as someone who has watched him grow. I've seen this man sacrifice everything, jobs, relationships, his health, to protect his sister. I've seen him cry because he thought he wasn't good enough. And I've seen Lila thrive under his care. If you asked me what a stable home looks like, I'd point to them." The judge raised an eyebrow. "You say you're engaged?" Danielle nodded slowly. "I was going to wait, but life doesn't always follow a plan." Marcus stood, stunned. "Danielle." Then, in one of the most unexpected moments in courtroom history, she reached into her blazer and pulled out a small velvet box. Marcus stumbled back, blinking. She opened it. A simple silver band. No diamonds, no glamour, just a symbol. "Marcus Taylor," she said, her voice clear and firm. "You have taken care of everyone around you your entire life. It's time someone takes care of you. Will you marry me?" The entire courtroom gasped. The bailiff choked on his coffee. The caseworker blinked in disbelief. Even the foster guardian raised an impressed eyebrow. Marcus didn't speak for a full 5 seconds. Then he laughed, a sound raw with disbelief and joy. He walked across the room, knelt down, not to match her proposal, but to be eye-level with Lila, and said, "You okay with this?" Lila smiled through tears. "She already makes pancakes better than you." The room erupted in laughter. Marcus stood up, turned to Danielle and nodded. Yes, Judge Rowan, who had presided over hundreds of cases in her 20 years, sat back in her chair, momentarily speechless. Then she smiled. "Well, I suppose we should proceed." What happened after that felt like destiny catching up. Danielle provided documents of stable income, permanent residence and family support. Marcus provided school records, letters from neighbors, and photos that told a story of love louder than any argument. By the end of the hearing, Judge Rowan leaned forward, her expression softer than when the hearing began. "In the matter of custody," she said, "I believe it is in Lila Taylor's best interest to be returned to the care of her brother, Marcus Taylor." Silence. Then Lila screamed with joy, ran across the room and hugged both Marcus and Danielle with arms too small for the hug they deserved. In the hallway outside the courtroom, reporters were already waiting. Someone had leaked the proposal. But Marcus didn't care. He held Lila's hand in one, Danielle's in the other, and walked out not just with a win in court, but with a future more secure than he'd ever dared to dream. The days following the courtroom proposal were a whirlwind. News outlets picked up the story, dubbing it the most heartfelt courtroom moment of the year. Social media buzzed with clips of the proposal, and messages of support poured in from strangers who were touched by the display of love and commitment. But for Marcus, Danielle, and Lila, life returned to a new normal. They moved into a modest home on the outskirts of town, with a backyard where Lila could play, and a small garden that Danielle tended to on weekends. Marcus found steady work as a mechanic, and Danielle continued her practice as a therapist, occasionally speaking at local events about the importance of family and resilience. Lila thrived in her new environment. She joined the school's art club, made friends, and often spoke about becoming a lawyer one day, inspired by the courtroom that changed her life. Marcus and Danielle supported her dreams, attending every school event and celebrating her achievements. With pride, their journey wasn't without challenges. There were moments of doubt, financial strains, and the occasional disagreement. But the foundation of their relationship, built on trust, love, and shared experiences, kept them grounded. They attended counseling sessions together, not because their relationship was in trouble, but because they believed in continuous growth and understanding. Years later, on a sunny afternoon, Marcus and Danielle sat on their porch, watching Lila head off to her first day of law school. They held hands, reflecting on their journey. "Can you believe how far we've come?" Marcus whispered. Danielle smiled. "From a courtroom proposal to this moment, it's been quite a ride." Their story serves as a testament to the power of love, resilience, and the belief that even in the most unexpected places, beautiful beginnings can emerge. ChatGPT said, as Marcus and Danielle sat in the quiet embrace of their porch, the sun dipped, lower on the horizon, casting a golden hue over their small garden. It was a humble space, nothing extravagant, but it was theirs. Every flower, every stone lining the walkway held a memory. Marcus had laid those stones by hand. Danielle had chosen each flower with care, thinking of colors that would make Lila smile. And Lila, now a young woman, had become everything they had dreamed she would be. Her time at law school had only deepened her sense of justice, empathy, and strength. She often returned home on weekends, sharing stories of her classes and the professors who challenged her thinking. But one day she brought home something different, a question. She sat across from Marcus at the kitchen table, her tone serious yet gentle. "Dad," she said, the words still warm on her tongue, "I've been thinking about writing my final paper on family law, on how the system affects real people, especially children. I want to tell our story. Would that be okay with you and Mom?" Marcus looked up, his eyes softening. He remembered the fear of that first courtroom appearance, the weight of uncertainty pressing down on his chest, and the way Danielle had walked into that room, calm, fierce, unwavering. He remembered proposing right there, in front of the judge, because for once he had nothing to lose and everything to fight for. "If it helps someone else, sweetheart," he said quietly, "then yes, tell it. Tell it all." And so she did. Lila's paper was more than an academic assignment, it was a testimony. She wrote about how families are more than legal documents and bloodlines. She wrote about how sometimes love is proven not in grand gestures but in the quiet choice to stay, to nurture, to protect. Her professors were stunned. One called it the most human perspective on law I've read in years. But what moved people most was the conclusion. She wrote, "My parents didn't find each other in a perfect moment. They found each other in the middle of a storm. And they didn't walk away. They walked through it, together. And that's why I believe in second chances. That's why I believe the courtroom is not just a place of judgment, but of redemption. Years passed. Lila graduated with honors. She became a child advocacy lawyer, working on cases that mirrored her own childhood. She fought for children like herself, those caught in the crossfire of adult decisions, making sure their voices were heard. Marcus and Danielle grew older, gracefully with the kind of love that only deepens with time. On their 25th wedding anniversary, they renewed their vows. But this time it was in their backyard under the oak tree Lila used to climb. As their friends and neighbors gathered, Danielle spoke first. "I was once a woman who walked into a courtroom to defend a child. I didn't know that child would become my daughter, and I didn't know that man would become my husband. But love is rarely about knowing. It's about trusting." Marcus, never one for grand speeches, simply looked at her and said, "I meant every word the day I asked you in court, and I mean every word now." Everyone stood to applaud, but Lila simply wiped a tear from her cheek, her heart full. That evening, as the stars blinked into the sky and laughter filled the air, Marcus stood quietly on the porch, looking out at the people who had become his family. Not just Danielle and Lila, but the community that had embraced them, supported them, believed in them. He knew life wouldn't always be easy. It never had been. But it was good, honest, worth every struggle. He thought back to the boy he used to be, the one who walked into that courthouse terrified, unsure, and barely holding it together. And he smiled, because that boy had grown into a man who finally understood what it meant to show up, to fight not just for love but for truth, for hope, for a future built on something real. And in that moment, under the fading sky, he knew. Sometimes life's most powerful transformations don't happen in grand moments, but in the quiet courage to do the right thing, even when no one's watching.